electric.
What electric model do you have?
Squire Telecaster.
Telecaster.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Classic.
Good morning, everybody, as you're coming on. Nice to see you. Anyway, my tambourine is from Egypt.
Did you see Cantor Green's tambourine?
Oh,
Yeah. So let's see Cantor Green's one more time. It's so amazing.
It is crazy.
Hold up your
okay. Well,
tambo.
it's not from Egypt, but it is from a Renaissance fair in Illinois.
It's so big.
Big authentic Renaissance.
Yeah.
It's just my
It
guess.
So good. Hi, Molly.
So big.
Thank you for being here. However, you must share your breakfast.
Did you bring
Enough for everybody?
Back in the day.
Oh, we're in Jerusalem.
Speaking of the women of the wall.
Woo! That's a good one. Good background. I don't have the actual time.
It is 10:29.
Oh, wow. Okay. Sing with us. How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is to be together on this day.
How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad.
Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum.
Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum.
How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is to be together on this day.
How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it
How
is.
sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov, hine matov, umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, umanayim shevet achim gam yachad.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hine Matzov. It is so good to be together. It's always good to be together and always good to be together on Shabbat. But this Shabbat is a very special opportunity for us. We're welcoming our congregants, and we're also especially welcoming some of our upcoming B'nai Mitzvah,
Fifth and sixth graders.
sixth graders who are with us today for what we have called a Shabbatini. I don't actually know what that word means. I don't think it is an actual word in any language that I'm aware of. But Shabbatini is an opportunity for us to just come together to learn a little bit about the service, even for those of us who've been to a lot of Shabbat services. Sometimes we just kind of do these prayers in a certain order and we're just following along. We don't really know exactly what it's about. And today we're going to try to do a little bit of an examination behind some of the ideas of Jewish prayer. We're going to look at some ways of doing prayer that are not just what's in the book. And we're also going to talk a little bit about, want to start with a concept of two different kinds of prayer, what we call keva and kavanah. I might have heard that word kavanah before. We sometimes, anybody want to give a little shout out at what they think the word kavanah means? Anybody heard that word before? Yeah, me too. Some people say that it's intention. It's like what's behind the prayer. What's the idea of the prayer? Keva means the fixed, what is set, the words that are written on the page, words that have been written. Our prayers, actually, the first prayer book was composed about 1,000 years ago, and it was started out year after year after year to become kind of fixed. They'd write a prayer and they'd say, this is really great, let's keep this, but then let's add something else. And lots of things got added over the years, and there was a set way of doing the prayers. And that's called keva. And as Cantor Green is putting in the chat, kavanah is this idea of what's really behind it. The people who wrote these prayers had an idea behind it. There's something that they wanted to say. And just because it was written a long time ago doesn't mean that it can't be written today too, that we might understand those prayers a little bit differently. And today we're actually going to practice that a little bit. How do we add a little bit more kavanah to our keva? How do we add our intention, our ideas, our own expression of what does it mean to stand on this Shabbat day and to feel what it is that these prayers mean, and how does it reflect and how does it affect our lives? So in Judaism, we always want to have a balance between those two. It's important to know the prayers. It's important to be part of this tradition that Jewish people have had for a very, very long time. And that's why we want our young people especially to learn these words of prayer so that they can be a part of that tradition. But if you're just reciting a bunch of words and you don't even know what they mean, doesn't sound like any fun. But the fun thing is when you look at what the words are, even if you're looking at it in English, and then adding your own ideas to it and your own sense of what these things mean, then the prayers come alive. So we're going to play a little bit with both of those things today.
We're going to start on page 175 if you're following along in a real prayer book or in the virtual one that you can find.
Our 5th and 6th graders probably have their prayer books right there.
Yes.
Right.
So page 175, these are a series of opening prayers, kind of like warm-ups. You can think of them that way. They're called Nisim B'chol Yom, everyday miracles. And like the rabbi said, you can look right at the words, you can chant the Hebrew, or you can look at what's behind those words and you can bring your own prayer to it. So it's kind of like when an actor is acting, he's saying, or she is saying words, but what is under the words is what makes it really interesting. So let's think about that as we chant along, starting on page 175. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lasech v'ivina le'avchin ben yom u'ben layla.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefufim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rokah haaretz al hamayim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamechin mitzadei gaver.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish arumim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hanoten laif koach.
We're just going to do a couple more. We're on page
And we
177.
should just explain, because it's just the two of us who are able to be on at the moment, but I am representing the congregation. The idea of this antiphonal is that the cantor, the leader, says one line, and then the whole congregation says the next line. So you guys join with me, please.
And even though I know you're muted and it feels funny to be chanting in your living room, unless you're used to doing that as we are, but
That's
we're
where
still
we are.
going to ask you to just join in anyway. What the heck? You're in your living room. No one else can hear you.
Your
except
dog will really
your
appreciate
dog.
it.
Yes,
Oh,
our
that's-
dog loves it.
loves it.
I'm going to do a little mashup right now of Hebrew and English. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who removes sleep from the eyes, slumber from the eyelids.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who made me in the image of God.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made me free.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made me a Jew.
Amen. So we now continue with another one of our beautiful introductory prayers, Ashrei, page 185. We're going to do it the same way as that kind of call and response. Here we go. Ashrei yoshvei v'techa, od yahalelucha selah.
Ashreyam shekacha lo, Ashreyam shadonai Elohav.
Tehillah leDavid, avromim Elohai hamelech, vavacha shimcha leolam va'ed.
Bechol yom avacheka, halal shimcha leolam va'ed.
Gadol Adonai u'mvula meod, v'li gdulato ein cheker.
Dor lador yishabach ma'asecha, ugvurotecha yagidu.
Hadar kivododecha, v'divrei niflotecha asicha.
Vezuz nerotecha yomeru, udgulatcha asaprena.
Zecher atuvcha yabiu, v'tzidkatcha yiraneinu.
Chanun v'rachum Adonai, erech apayim udal chesed.
Tov Adonai lakol, v'rachamav al kol ma'asav. Adonai is good in all that God creates, and God's mercy is on all God's creations.
Those
So
of
as
you-
we, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
So as we have begun these morning welcome wake up prayers, and we're talking about this keva and kavanah, we want to experience our first sort of exercise with kavanah. So kavanah, what's kavanah again? You can put it in the chat if you remember, and it's in the chat, so you can open the chat to remind yourself.
Somebody can unmute and answer.
Tableau, or you can, yay,
Intention.
brought to your prayers.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Right.
So these morning blessings especially are created. They were created by the rabbis. They were pulled out from different pieces of our text and turned into this liturgy, and especially our Nisim V'chol Yom, these morning blessings that we were supposed to say when we woke up, and just be so thankful for being able to open our eyes, put our feet on the floor, to take those deep breaths, to feel our bodies moving. We used to do these at home, and then we moved them into our prayer book. It was actually all about kavanah, and then we moved it into this keva because we wanted to make sure that people remembered to do it. We remembered to be thankful and grateful. And especially on Shabbat, Shabbat is all about gratitude. All of our prayers that petition, all of our prayers that ask for things sort of fall away on Shabbat. And we just sit in this place of being thankful. And I especially think about this Shabbat as we were playing the game, as we do on Friday nights with everybody, what's the best and the worst part of the week, and thinking about this time last week. I'll tell you, it was pretty miserable here, and I'm sure a lot of you, and I don't know, maybe some of you are still without power and without different things and making things work, that we really start appreciating those simple things of opening our eyes, of taking deep breaths, of feeling that sense of gratitude. And so what we would love for you to start doing is, hopefully you might have some paper and a pen nearby, or something that you can write with, or even, technology, and you can open a note on your phone. And we want you to start thinking about your own prayer of gratitude, your own thanksgiving. Prayer can sometimes, or a blessing can feel sort of overwhelming. Like, how do I write a prayer? How do I write a blessing? So you can use our formula, right? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. We say, Blessed are you, God, creator, ruler of the universe. We are so thankful for X. Or anything else is my wish for this Shabbat is for this. I'm so grateful for this. But we want you to start taking the time now, as we'll be continuing with our service and moving into another part of it, to turn to the person next to you, or turn inside if you don't have someone sitting next to you. I don't have anybody next to me right now. That you start writing down, what is that prayer? We're going to have an opportunity to offer it later in our service. So start, having those conversations and taking that time to put some pen to paper, your own opportunity to be the rabbis of the Talmud, to bring your own kavanah, your own intention, your own blessings to our Shabbat morning service.
As you're writing those, take a little time. This is the writing music, in case you didn't know. To help the creative juices flow. We invite you to continue to write these prayers throughout the service. There's no rules about when it needs to be finished. You just, as it comes to you, take a minute and write it down. Don't let the moment pass you by. So on this beautiful journey we're on together this morning of keva and kavanah and prayer, and we know that prayer is really about the coming together of the mind. So engaging the mind, like taking the time to think about writing your own prayer, or thinking about a new learning, a new teaching. It's about bringing the mind and body, we're physically warming up our bodies, and the spirit and the heart, opening the spirit and the heart all together. So prayer is ideally about bringing all three of those things together: mind, body, and spirit or heart. And we talk a lot about all of these, but movement, I feel like sometimes we don't talk as much about. And you guys know how much a movement is a part of our prayer services. Sometimes we kind of joke around. We're like, oh yeah, it's stand up, sit down, fight, fight, fight. It's like we're at a rally or something, standing up, sitting down, bowing. It's there's a lot happening. And so I invite you to come closer to your computer so that you can type into the chat, because I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. If we were in the sanctuary, you guys would just say, yell it out, So yell it out over chat. Let us know, where are the places in our prayer service that we have movements? Where do we see movement in our prayer services? Type it into the chat. You can elect your 5th and 6th grader to be the typer, and they either type something in they know, or you can tell them what to type, okay? But every family should have a typer there. Into the chat. Where do we have movement in our prayer services? Where do you see movement in our prayer services? Or do we just sit still all the time and not move? The Baruch Hu, that's right. And it doesn't even have to be the names of the prayers and blessings, but what is it that we do? What are the movements? What are the Shema? What are the movements associated with prayer? Keep typing them in. You guys know, what are some of the movements we do? Bowing, what else? Yeah, what do we do during the Shema? What are some of the movements we do? We stand up, we're singing, we're clapping. What else? This is so great. You guys, think about all the, some of the choreography. We like to call it the sacred choreography of our services. We are so used to, maybe we don't even notice it anymore, right? We close our eyes, right? We stand when the ark is opened. This is great. Keep them coming. Think about taking the Torah out. What else do we do? Maybe let's get a few more in here. Let's get a few. We dance, we greet each other. Oh, that's nice. Have you ever, when we reach out and we kiss the Torah, right? Maybe not right now. Okay. There's some rising up to the toes on Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh when we were saying holy, holy, holy is your name, right? What about this? What about kind of the natural movements of prayer that some people do? What are these called? I'm kind of acting it out for you. What is some of this called? Do you guys know? Do you know what that's called? Some of the natural movements? Davening, right? Davening is one of those words that's so a part of prayer that sometimes people use the word davening to mean prayer. But it really is this physical movement. We're facing east. That's a very physical act. These are all so great. So some of these, you can keep them coming. Some of these movements are spontaneous, like the davening and the dancing, and they help us let go. They kind of help us let go and be in the prayer and be in whatever moment we need to be in. And some of these movements are prescribed. Okay, and have been prescribed since the time of the Talmud, written, codified in the 4th century. These prescribed movements are sacred. Choreography are not just random. Okay, there was so much thought put behind why do these movements in a certain place. So the sacred choreography helps us remind us what we are praying about. It helps us focus on the purpose of the prayer. And then it also allows us to bring our own personal experience, our own personal body, personal meaning into the prayer. So, okay, let's do a little more typing here because you guys are so great at it. Think outside of the prayer service for a second. Where in life do we bow? Like, where do you see bowing in life? Pandemic aside, try to remember, where do we bow in our lives? Like, where else do we do this in life? Elect your typer of the family. I suggest the 5th and 6th grader. Where do we see bowing? To royalty, right? Out of subservience, maybe to royalty, or humbling ourselves, right? At the end of a performance, thank you for coming, right? Where else? Bow to your partner, do-si-do, right? Out of respect. Saying hello and goodbye, a greeting. This is so beautiful. After performing, we say namaste. And for those of you, raise your hand if you're yogis out there. You probably know child pose also is very much about, what is child pose all about? Kind of letting go of control. And what happens when you put your head down to someone? Someone's over here, someone big and mighty and in charge is over here, and you put your head down. What is that showing? Oh, it shows your yarmulke for one thing. What does that show? To me, that shows a lot of, yes, it is a resting pose. That's right, resting and a trusting pose, right? Out of respect. And if you put your head down, it shows that you have respect. So let's keep all of these ideas in mind. And we're not submission, right? I don't have complete control over everything in this world, is what you're saying when you bow, right? So with all of these possible ideas, and there's probably more, maybe you didn't want to say it out loud, but you're thinking it, let's keep all of these ideas in mind as we turn to page 195 for the Baruch Hu, and we'll stand if you're able to. And maybe you don't usually bow for the Baruch Hu, and you're going to try it out today for the first time. But even if you've done it before, I want you to think about, what does it feel like to bow? How does this bring kavanah to the prayer? Praised are you, God, to whom I owe my praise now and forever. And remember, the leader will start the first line and bow and say, we praise God. Are you ready to pray? And then if you're ready to pray, you respond with the little bow, and we're up for God's name. We say we're ready to pray. Okay, so think about, how does it feel to bow as you're doing it this morning?
That the book of Esther particularly reminds us that we don't bow to human beings. We don't bow to royalty. We don't bow to anyone except to God. And that is why in this Baruch Hu, where we are bowing to God, it's such a profound movement, because it's an unusual movement for the Jew.
Right. Thank you so much, Rabbi, in reminding us. With Purim coming up, we were talking so much about bowing. With all of this on our minds and our hearts, let's sing together. We're ready to pray. Baruch Adonai we'll have more opportunities to bow in our service and to kind of keep all of that in mind in just a little bit. But now we turn to page 200 for Shema and then 201 for Ve'ahavta. Let's prepare for the Shema. We'll cover our eyes as so many reminded us we do, something physical that we do to help us focus on these words that God is one. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. We'll continue with Ve'ahavta. I'll remind the 5th and 6th graders, please follow along in your prayer book with your finger. We'll go nice and slow. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha Veshinantam levanecha, vedibarta bam, veshivtecha b'veitecha, uvlechtecha vaderech, uvshochbecha uvkumecha, ukshartam leot al yadecha, vehayu letotafot bein einecha, Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha lema antiskeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kadoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. So, Mi Chamocha is one of our pieces of liturgy that actually doesn't have prescribed movements. However, we have the beautiful tradition at Beth Israel of offering spontaneous dancing very often because we're reenacting that miraculous moment that the sea split and we were passing through, our people were passing through to freedom. But we're going to try something a little different today. So are you feeling brave? Is anyone feeling brave? I hope so. If you're feeling brave, give a thumbs up. If you're feeling brave, you could turn on your camera because I'm going to ask you to think about a time, well, this might not be so hard for you. Think of a time you were feeling kind of constrained, trapped, indoors perhaps, not able to just go out and be free and do exactly what it is you wanted to do. Okay, and this is going to be a way we're going to be able to bring our own kavanah today to Mi Chamocha in a new way. Okay, so think about what is a movement or a pose, perhaps, a movement, a motion, a pose, perhaps, that would represent that feeling of feeling constricted and then finally being free. Okay, kind of thinking about what is the intention of that moment that the words of Mi Chamocha, that our people sang these words at the splitting of the sea. It's okay. It's okay if your camera's not working. No pressure, but we'd love to see you if we can. Ben has something he's doing. You guys think about, if you want, we would love if you would share. If you have something you want to share, go ahead and come off mute or type into the chat a movement that could represent freedom for you. What would that feel like to go from something, a stuck place, to an open place? Who wants to share? Go ahead and either come off of mute or type in, I want to share, so that I know. Who would like to share a movement? Dancing, yes, dancing's a great one, but I want to see the movement. Do you want to start, Ben? Would you mind starting, Ben? Okay, we're all watching. Can we see Ben? Okay, so you were like really, you were kind of down here and all huddled up, and then you came up and out. Can everyone try that where you are? Try to do what Ben's doing. Can you see Ben if you're in gallery mode? So he's starting, he's really, really small, and then he just kind of, oh, I just love that. That feels like freedom right there. That's wonderful. Everyone try it one more time. Down, we're really stuck down here, and then all of a sudden just letting it go. I just love that. Who else has one they want to share? What would freedom, thank you, Ben. Freedom dance is my version. Awesome. I love that. Thank you, Martin. Who else wants to share? I would love for you to show us what it looks like to you. And it doesn't have to be something so big. It could be something, a pose or something. Who else is feeling brave? I know this is a really big deal. Yeah, thank you, Stone family. Julie. Like this? I love this. Do you mind coming off of mute and explaining what? I just love this.
At a synagogue I went to when I lived in Berkeley, we did this to say applause and gratitude. This was you did a great job, fantastic.
So you associate this movement with gratitude and awesomeness, perhaps
Yeah.
feeling at the sea. I just love that. Everyone try it. I just love that. It just feels good. Yeah, yeah. Oh, beautiful. Okay, so far, everyone, let's do what we have so far. We have down. We're kind of stuck down here, and we let it all go. And then we've got our awesomeness, our gratitude fingers. I love it. Who else would like to share? This is wonderful. Let's get one or two more, please. What does freedom look like to you? What does freedom look like to you? Yes. Feeling brave. Who's feeling brave? Who's feeling brave? I see someone's thinking through what to do. Let's get one more person. What could it look like? What could it look like? Let's see here. I see a box that starts with Andrea, and it looks like you're wanting to offer something. What was that you were doing? It was wonderful. Nettie, do you have one you want to share?
I just
yes.
hang on, unmute myself.
Yes, you're unmuted.
I just
This is free for ASL.
Oh, two things are happening right now. This is wonderful. Nettie, this is beautiful. We're going to come to you in just a moment, Nettie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Share with me your name that you're offering this beautiful.
Oh, wait.
Yes, what is your name?
Oh, mine? I'm Jeff.
Hi, Jeff. I'm sorry. Thank you for
I just
reminding me.
feel my heart releasing.
Oh my goodness, this is wonderful. Everyone put your hands over your heart. Try, what is that? Wow. Wow, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Everyone try that. Okay, so far what do we have? We're feeling constricted down here, and we come up and open. We have the awesomeness and gratitude in our fingers and from our hearts. So much love coming out. Beautiful. Nettie, thank you so much, Jeff. Nettie, will you let us know what you were saying?
Sure. This is free in sign language.
Isn't that cool? That's the F, right?
Yes.
Yes. Look at that. Just out into the world. I love that. Thank you. Can everyone do that? This is the F in sign language. And we're starting with the arms together and then out, free. Maybe it's kind of like the shackles, right? Holding your arms together.
It actually comes from the heart out. Mm-hmm.
From the heart out. Beautiful. Okay, let's try this, everyone. And then, wow, let's see if we can remember everything. We're starting down here, small, and then we get big and open. What happens next? We have our gratitude, our awesomeness coming from the heart out to everyone. And then freedom. Did I miss one? Did we get everyone's? We got everyone's. Let's turn to page 204. Stay where you are, and let's bring all of this beautiful personal kavanah from all of you into the singing of our song of freedom. Page 204, Mi Chamocha. Here we go. We'll start down here. We have Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh. From the heart. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh. We're down here, we're constricted, we're about to be free. Nora tehilot. Oh, Seifele, from the heart. Nora tehilot. Oh, Seifele. Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Wow, thank you everyone so much for offering those beautiful kavanot, those beautiful personal intentions that you could bring to me chamocha. So beautiful. Thank you for sharing and trying something new.
So beautiful. And so now we've really warmed up our bodies, which is part of the whole idea of the movement and bringing that kavanah of movement to our keva. And after mi chamocha, after that real opening to freedom, we come to our tefillah, which we call the great standing prayer, where we stand up as we approach God. And there's actually a choreography even in our tefillah when we begin this prayer, when we say, Adonai tzvatai tiftach, God, open up my lips and let me then say these prayers and say these blessings. We actually, and it says it in your prayer book, I don't know if you've ever seen us do this, we take a step back and then we take 3 steps forward. We're creating this sacred space. So we've been standing and we've been moving in one place, and then we're going to break that area, that plane for a moment. We're going to step back, and then we're going to step into this new feeling of how we are approaching God and how we're approaching all these prayers and these praise of God. And this prayer in particular, these are many prayers. Where also there was no keva to this for many years, for centuries, is that we had themes of the prayers. I actually should have looked ahead to say here, do we remember on the side, sometimes of our prayer book, it tells us what the themes are. But do you remember how our vote, we begin with our prayer where we're calling out to our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. And then we have our givurot. We're talking about that strength and that strength that we draw from all of this and the strength of God. And then on Shabbat, we go into our prayers and our praises of Shabbat, our Kedushat Hayom, and our blessing for this day. But before we had those words on the page, we just had these themes of blessings. And during the week, actually, these themes of a lot of things we're asking for, and there weren't words to it. We then just created the words. Whatever community you were in, you came together and they said, here's the theme, and you created those words. And so actually what we want to do is take some of those words that you started to create earlier in the service. We talked about it with Nisim V'chol Yom when you were creating those blessings, and we want to hear some of those blessings now. We're going to split you in briefly into small rooms, maybe just 4 boxes per room, so that you can share some of the words you've been thinking about. And draft form is okay. The kavanah, if it's just spontaneous from your heart and you didn't write it down, that's great. We just want to hear, as we say, God, open up my mouth and help me find those words of praise. And now I'm going to praise you. So we want to give you an opportunity to share some of those blessings and some of those wishes and some of those inspirations with each other, and then we'll come back and do a little Kedushat Hayom, and we'll praise this day of Shabbat. And so I think Chelsea's gonna put us into groups. Thank you, Chelsea.
Hello.
Hi. Let me see. You might have joined right after I created these. Give me just one moment.
I joined a
please.
little late, yes.
So did I.
Here you are. Here you go, everybody. There you go. Hi. Sorry.
Hi.
I was like, wait.
I know. I don't know. I think we could probably call people back. I mean, who knows, right? I don't know how
I
long we've
gave-
been gone.
Like 2 or 3 minutes.
Do you want to give a 1 minute countdown?
Sure. Yeah.
Do a 1
I
minute
did
countdown.
put Joel and Martin together, and now I'm nervous.
It's okay.
I didn't
It's okay.
know.
It's okay. It's really
It's
fine.
okay.
Better to put them together than him with anybody else. So it's totally fine.
With the Kahanas, you guys look different. Oh, you showered. You have electricity.
Julie
You guys look
Stark is
great.
here, and she has-
My brother has it back in Texas. He's got water again.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
The
they
tweets
have water?
to Cruz are so
he has
good.
water for now.
And have they expelled Ted Cruz from Texas yet?
Uh,
No, but the tweets are amazing.
They are
Like, the
amazing.
people that are tweeting everything to him.
well,
are like,
and then AOC is like helping, going there.
Beto
Beto,
O'Rourke.
yeah.
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
I
raised,
love
she
the-
raised
I
$1
love
million.
the idea. I love the idea of
2 million.
crossing
2 million
the
now?
border for
Yeah.
refugees.
Yeah.
The
yeah,
Mexican
that's perfect.
descendant who hasn't.
Okay.
Can't make that
um,
up.
Okay.
That's our minute. I'm gonna
Okay.
spotlight Rabbi Joseph and close our room.
Well, let's see if anybody wants to share. I put it back on gallery mode. I hate the like speaker view where you're looking at yourself.
I hear you.
All right, we
I
are.
know, it's like-
Just remember, we are recording, guys.
Well, there'll be a nice little interlude. Welcome back. Are there any prayers, blessings, Thanksgiving that anybody wants to share?
I would love to. How about we all give a gigantic thanks to PGE? These people are really heroic this season.
Yes, we are very thankful to everyone helping to restore power and electricity and water. And I know some people are still without, going on many, many days. And I know everyone is working so hard, tree removals, all the repairs, and it's not over. So yes, so thankful to everyone out there helping us. Again, we think about these things. We're always thankful. I mean, I'm always very thankful for technology, but when you lose power in a cold day and a cold night, you really start thinking, you appreciate it, or we're thinking about our friends and everyone in Texas and other parts of the South that are really suffering. Julie?
Rabbi, yeah, Rabbi, I just wanted to say, one of the things that I'm really grateful for is to all of you at CBI who have kept us together, held us together through the pandemic, through the fires, through the through the ice storm. And I'm really grateful to have this community and to be able to, even though there's so much disruption in daily life, to be able to still come together with all of you and feel connected. Thank you for that.
Thank you. That is, yes. All right. Well, thank you for your spirit fingers too that you brought us. Julie, it is so important to have that grounding in the storm. I said, we always talked about it, never really thinking how literal it was going to be. And you are so right that with everything going on around us, to have this centering. And I know that we feel the same way about you and all of you, that seeing your faces, although I can't wait to see them in person, but just this connection is so grounding and so important. Really appreciate it. Any last blessing? Anybody else have a blessing they want to offer?
I just I'm friends with teachers and nurses and the people on the front lines, and they are so important. You know, especially for our children to keep learning. And I'm new to the church. I joined during COVID, so I can't wait to meet you guys in person.
Yeah, so we are so thankful to all of those people giving of themselves and really out there helping. And especially, yes, all of our kids, the teachers are working so hard using this technology, and we pray to all be together again soon too, to have our kids be able to be together and learn with their peers and their teachers. I pray.
And Rabbi, one more along that same line. During the worst of the storms, I saw videos of our fire departments going out and collecting the homeless to take them to a community shelter so they would not freeze in that worst part.
Yes, the blessing of community, of responsibility to all those around. As I say, the Portland spirit, the amount of times that I got stuck or somebody else was stuck and people just come and help you, even in that way of just like, we're not going to leave you stranded here in your car or on the side or whatever. It's just so powerful. The human spirit really shines in those moments of crisis. And I hope that my prayer is also that carries over, not only in moments of crisis, but in everyday moments, that we really look at each other as all created in the image of God, and we have a responsibility. So it is really powerful. This is a reminder of that. Thank you all so much. And you can keep thinking about those blessings, keep crafting them. Maybe you were inspired by somebody else in your group and what they had to share. We wanted to do one of the blessings from this section, and it comes under the rubric of sanctifying Shabbat and talking about how holy Shabbat is. If you have your prayer book, we're on page 210. And this blessing, the Shamru, talking about the importance of Shabbat. And I'm not sure if it's here. We always talk about that more than, that the Shabbat has kept the Jewish people. This is what binds us together and has kept us strong and connected throughout the centuries, is this opportunity to rest, to rejuvenate, to refresh our neshama, our soul, our life force, so that we can go back into the world and really be there for one another. One of the fun camp traditions that we like to do here is, again, about movement. We bring movement even to these prayers, and we do a little rising up and a little spirit fingers on the et. So every time we say et, there's a little et. I know some camps, they even like turn around and do all this stuff. So whatever you're feeling, getting back into that spirit, thinking maybe back to that freedom of michamocha and that freedom that Shabbat brings us, that we can really be embodied in our, and then feel that energy that is going to take us into the week. So let's sing a little Vishamru. I know you know it. So yes, it's all so strange to sing in our homes, but you can do it. I want to see some spirit fingers, maybe some spinning, whatever you're inspired to do. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
So it's great to have this mix of Kevan Kavanan. We always take this time as we're reading through the prayers. We always take a moment in our service for an intentional Kavanah, where we look away from the book, where we don't say anything out loud. We look inward and find our own personal prayer. So let's take a moment of just quiet and be able to listen to the voice that is in our hearts.
I hope you'll repeat after me as I sing. Here we go. Hear you, little son, little son. Here you go, you'll repeat again. Adonai, Suri, May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer.
As our bat mitzvah students or 5th and 6th graders know, one of the centerpieces of our Shabbat morning service is the Torah reading. We're going to have an opportunity to hear from some young people who are going to do some chanting for us. This week's Torah portion, Truma, deals with some of the sacrifices that were brought. This takes place in the desert, of course, as much of the Torah does, as we're in the book of Exodus. And the Israelites are just building the Mishkan, the portable sanctuary, for the first time. And they are told to bring these trumot, to bring these offerings in order to build the sanctuary. But truma is a different kind of sacrifice. It's not just, oh, let me see, I'm going to find something around here, you can take this. Truma is something that has been previously set aside. It's very intentional. I've said, I have this wonderful thing, and I'm going to not use it. I'm not going to use it for myself. I'm going to set it aside to give it as a gift for someone who's going to really appreciate it. It's going to be really meaningful. It's not something we're used to doing. Most of the time when we set something aside, it's because we don't want it, and we re-gift. This is much more meaningful. This is saying, this is something that I have that is so meaningful, that's so important, I'm not going to keep it. What a concept. this idea of truma is. What a concept of sacrifice, of doing something for a greater good, something that's not selfish, but something that is for everyone else. And I think many of us have seen actions that have been along those lines of truma, but we rarely think of them as those kinds of objects. So we're going to hear a little bit of the Torah being read.
We're very happy to invite two of our peer tutors that have become B'nai Mitzvah themselves and now help us on Sunday mornings. So you guys may know them, Luna and Diego Romero. They're going to chant the first 3 verses, and they're also going to chant the Torah blessings, which are found on page 250 in the prayer book. So all of you that are practicing your Torah blessings, please chant along with them. I'll ask them now to unmute and give us a taste of this beautiful Torah portion.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Daber el bnei Yisrael vikuli teruma me'et kol ish asher yidvenu libo tiku et terumati.
Vezot hateruma asher tiku meitam zahava hesef unechoshet.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'hayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yesher koach.
Nicely
Beautiful
done.
job. I'm going to read what that means and a little bit more just to give you the full flavor. The Eternal One spoke to Moses saying, "Tell the Israelite people to bring me gifts. You shall accept gifts for me from every person whose heart is so moved. And these are the gifts that you shall accept from them: gold, silver, and copper, blue, purple, and crimson yarns, fine linen, goat's hair, tanned ram skins, dolphin skins, and acacia wood, oil for lighting, spices for the anointing oil and for the aromatic incense, lapis lazuli and other stones for setting, for the ephod and for the breastpiece. And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them."
We have those words actually on the sanctuary at our synagogue. Let them be a sanctuary. Let them make a sanctuary that God may dwell among us. Very powerful meaning in that notion of thinking. I think we all might think a little bit about what are the gifts that we've been given that we might really set aside and use for others rather than for ourselves. What are the gifts that are inside of us that we can use to help others? This Shabbat is also a special one because it is the Shabbat that comes just before Purim. That's next week. And there's a special Haftarah, not the Haftarah reading of the week, but a special one that is set aside for Shabbat Zachor. This is from the book of Samuel. We're not going to read today that section, but I just want you to know about it because it talks about one of the themes of Purim, and that is the theme of the enemy, the one who is seeking to destroy us. It talks about a biblical ancestor of Haman, Amalek, the people who were among those who fought against the Israelites in the deserts, but fought against them in a manner that you don't do in normal war. Rather than fighting armies against each other, Amalek came from behind where the women and children were normally kept and would attack from the rear. And that was considered so egregious, so horrible, to do essentially what we might call war crimes, that the Torah defines Amalek as a continuous enemy. We talked a little bit earlier about how Purim reminds us not to bow down to false idols, not to bow down to people, but only to God. And the Torah always reminds us that we always have to be on guard, and that there's something about being aware of those who want to do us harm as the Jewish people. That has been in every generation. It's not something that we're happy about or we like to talk about, but it is a part of our reality. And we want to never let that interfere with our pride in being who we are. That we are proud of being a Jewish people. We are, as someone else mentioned earlier, we look out for each other. We see each other through beautiful times and through difficult times as well. And that's what a community is all about.
Amen.
It is in this moment when we speak words of our holy Torah that keep us connected to tradition and to one another, and we hear that beautiful sound. Thank you, Luna and Diego. Oh my goodness. It is just in this moment that we say some of our most intimate, personal prayers. And so we want to take this moment, as always, after hearing these words of Torah, to pray for healing. And we are just so incredibly aware of how much healing we are in need of in this world, on a global level, on a local level, on a personal level. We believe in the power of prayer to give us strength, to bring comfort, to heal. And so we take a moment to type into the chat or hold in our hearts those who are in need of healing of mind, healing of body, healing of spirit. So go ahead, and if you feel comfortable sharing with us the names of who you're thinking of in the chat, we can hold each other as one community. We're in our own homes, but we are together. We are connected through the power of this sanctuary that we create wherever we are. God is dwelling among us, no doubt. So the Misha Berach, page 253. We pray for healing. Thank you for adding names. We hold them all in our hearts. As we sing together. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishe Berach Imotenu Mikor HaBracha Avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Oh, we can't hear you. Oh, there we go.
Now you can hear us. Thank you. Sorry about that.
We will continue now praying for a time when we will all be one and at peace. We pray for shalem as well as shalom, for wholeness as well as peace. Aleinu, page 282, another one of our physical movement prayers where we're bowing to God in this moment. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'ateit gdula yotze breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei aratzot, velo samanu k'misvachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר היה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו ושמו אחד. We take a moment to think of those in our community who have recently died, those whom we take into our hearts with our own. May be seated. We think of Shirley Prince and those whose yahrzeit occurred during this time: Lee Ackley, Nathan Adler, Rick Aftergut, Esther Hirsch Barty, Teresa Bergstein, A.I. Block, Gerald Cohen, Lorraine Davis, Marvin L. Diamond, Harry Estrin, Bernice Feldman, Don Felton, Max Flaxman, Charles Freeman, George Friend, Rita Geller, Bernard Goldberg, Samuel Hahn, Henry Harold Hirsch, Lawrence Hoffman, Irwin B. Holzman, Rachel Hornbass, Joseph Hupert, Sylvia Kaplan, Eric Kellner, Cantor Chaim Cohen, Rabbi Zalman Cohen, Rosalind E. Levine, Ann Liebman, Sylvia Margulis, Marion M. Meyer, Donna Miller, Lisa Oziel, Ruin Picos, Max Raskin, Thelma Rosen, Don Safran, Bessie Savinar, Sadie Scheifer, Alma B. Senders, Marion Silver, Judge Gus J. Solomon, Philip J. Spear, Dora Tall, Louis Tobin, Rose Trachtenberg, Adele Tunick, Eugene Veltman, Arnold Winters. If anyone else is honoring the memory of a loved one and you'd like to share their name, you can put that into the chat as well. The memories of all of them are with us. Our griefs and our sympathies are mingled. We turn to page 294 and rise. Together we say the words of Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyamechon, uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam u'lomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei d'kudusha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlam araba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all the people Israel, to all of the world. And we say, Amen. Please be seated. Thank you, everyone, for being with us today. So meaningful. Thank you for your participation, your creativity, your openness, your kavanah. I think we all felt it. We had that movement.
I think we all have a sense of prayer as being something more than what's on the page, but an experience that's in our hearts. Thank you to my colleagues or clergy leaders, to Chelsea and to Beta for helping us here. And we're going to excuse the people who are not 5th and 6th grade families. We thank all of you. After the closing song. Yes, we're going to have a closing song. Then we're going to do that. And for the 5th and 6th graders, our Shabbatini participants, we are going to have a special program we're very excited about. A little bit of hearing from some of B'nai Mitzvah families who have had recent bar mitzvahs in pandemic era, and a little bit of what their experience has been like and what we might learn from the young people who are preparing, and for families who are preparing for this milestone moment in their lives. Cantor Green.
Yes. Let us all close with a prayer for peace, because we can never have too many prayers for peace. Ose shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al Yisrael. Oseh shalom bimrama, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimrama, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimrama, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al Yisrael. 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 Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank
Shabbat
you all
shalom.
for
Thank you
joining
all.
us. 5th and 6th grade families and our special panel, please stay on with us now. We're so happy to have you with us, and we want to give a special thank you to our Torah readers again, to Luna and Diego. Sparkle fingers.
Sparkle fingers.
Fingles, I can't talk. And also to those families who have agreed to be on this Zoom call with us to talk a little bit, to interact with our upcoming 5th and 6th grade families. It's really nice always to hear from people who have actually been through this experience. So we have three families that will be with us: the Lurias, the McCoys, and the Garfinkles. And they're going to just help us with, what it's all about. So we sent a series of some questions, and for parents and for the students as well.
Before we start with panel, just two
panel,
very quick
yes.
things. Beta, could you spotlight yourself, please? This is Beta.
Oh, very important.
Very important. So many of you may have had emails and other kinds of conversations with Beta. She has been doing all of the B'nai Mitzvah coordination. So now you've got a face to go with the name. Beta is so fantastic. We love her. And if you're ever on the phone with her and you can get her to laugh, you want that experience. Trust me on this. She got the best laugh in the world. And so it's always great to have her. Thanks so much, Beta. Before we start with our You spotlight me again. Thank you. Before we start with our panel, just want you to know this idea of this Shabbatini is something that we've done for many years as we are preparing for the experience of the B'nai Mitzvah. There's generally two major questions and concerns that have happened in past years. The kids are worried about, how am I going to learn all this stuff? It's like, too much, how am I going to learn it? I don't understand how to do it. And the parents are often worried about, how am I going to do this party? What am I supposed to do? What's the expectations of parties and things like that? And we try to kind of calm everybody down about all of those things. Kids, as you've been working through this process, especially some of the older ones, you know that we've been giving you the steps to go through how to learn all of the things. And many of you are really far along and doing a great, great job with this. And those who are just starting, you're on the way. And we will make sure, we always want you to know, we are all here for you. We want you to be proud of yourself in this experience, and we want to help you with this experience as well. And the interesting thing about this time of doing these B'nai Mitzvah during pandemic has been the reality of getting down to the essence of what matters, right? The B'nai Mitzvah that we've been experiencing many times, as you'll hear from some of these families, that's been from their own homes, as we've been in our own homes. Some have been in the sanctuary. We've had a variety over this period of time. But the whole concerns about parties, some have had parties, but they have been of lesser concern. And that the essence really is of the meaningfulness of taking on the responsibility of being Jewish leaders, of being able to do, as we saw with our Torah readers today, to be able to be called upon to lead us in services, to read from the Torah, to have these skills and this knowledge, not for one day, but for your life. And that meaning of passing the tradition from generation to generation has been so powerful during this time. And I think it's good for us. It's, there's whatever the pandemic silver linings are, some of it, I think, for all of us in many aspects of our life, have been helping us to recognize what really matters. Being close to family and friends, even if close means physically far away, but still being able to maintain that close connection.
Thanks, Rabbi. By the way, we have another family with us too, joining our panel. Megan Shipley is here, I think, with Alex. So that's great. Thank you for joining us. What's nice about this representation of families too on this panel is that they all experienced B'nai Mitzvah slightly differently during pandemic, so they will be able to speak from those experiences, whether it was with limited participation in the sanctuary, or whether it was in their backyard, or whether it was in their living room. So we really have wonderful opportunity to hear from different people. So
and I guess the overall message, I think, for those of you who are anticipating bar and bat mitzvah is to say there's not just one way to do it. We don't carry, I think that's one of the wonderful things about this community. There's not competition. There's not, this is the one model and everybody has to conform to that model. We've seen lots of different models, and I think that's part of what we're going to hear about in just a bit.
So, we didn't actually plan this part. Okay, let's start with.
We've got some questions.
Yes, we do. We have questions. I think if we can have perhaps a brave panelist who would like to start us off, and we have these out. Maybe we can put the questions in the chat. I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. I can read them, but then everyone will forget them.
Actually, let people say what they're going to say, and we might
good.
just respond to
family, whoever's the first family, just go with whatever question you want to. Maybe say what the question is, and then what your response was, and maybe let's have one from a parent and one from the child, so that we get both.
Looks like the Lurias are on a road trip. So, take us with you. Take us with you.
Go ahead.
We are on a road trip. We were in search of sunshine, and the closest place with sunshine is the Dales in Eastern Oregon. So it's an hour and a half, and there is sun here. So anybody who wants to get out of town, go to the Dales.
I hate to tell you, but it's sunny in Portland right now. But that's okay.
Is it really?
But it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, so Gil and Jenny, thank you for joining us. And in the back of the car, we have Ben and Adam. So who, hi guys. Parents, do you want to lead us off with, do you want me to review the questions for you?
Yeah, I think the first couple of questions are the good lead in, which is to say to the parents and to the future bar mitzvahs, bnei mitzvah, is it's going to happen. It's going to work. It's going to be great. If you follow the instructions as stated by, especially if you follow the Cantor's specific instructions and roadmap, this is going to work. That's all. Sure, she annotates. Oh, can you hear us?
Yeah, you came back.
She annotates the specific dates that you have to learn the passages by. Follow those instructions. Go to the check-in meetings. If you do all those things, the services part of this is going to work. The party's the party, and like you said, it's different for everybody. But I know that for us, a year ago, we went to a bar mitzvah, and we thought a year before our bar mitzvah, their bar mitzvah, we went to a bar mitzvah and we thought, wow, this is so hard. We all thought it. Is it even possible that we're going to get to our bar mitzvah and it's going to work? But we followed the path. We followed instructions. We studied every week, once or twice a week, the passages per the instructions and the dates and the guidelines. And it worked great. The boys were in the zone and it was beautiful and it worked out great.
And I will just add, in terms of the party, since you said that was a big concern, we obviously did not have a party because we did it in November, and that's when COVID cases were spiking. So it was just Rabbi Kahana and the four of us in the synagogue. And for the kids, it actually turned out being great because they're 13. They don't want a bunch of their friends and aunts that they haven't seen in 10 years watching them speak Hebrew, right? But for us, it was great because our aunts and uncles in Israel and on the East Coast and everywhere could all join in a way that made us still feel pretty celebratory. And we were in our sweatpants by 1 p.m., which I think is a huge bonus. So there was a lot of emotional ups and downs of planning things, then canceling things, then planning things, then canceling things. So I would tell people just roll with it. And like Gil said, it'll happen and it'll be beautiful and you'll be glad you did it. It may not be how you thought it was going to be, but it'll happen and it'll be great.
Thank you.
You guys want to say something?
Yeah.
No, I think you guys covered all the bases.
Say something. Are you glad you did this?
Yes, I'm very glad I did this. This was a good experience to learn, especially with the Mitzvah Project. It was a good experience to learn about your community and just ways you can give back to the community. And since we recently moved here around 3 years ago, it's nice to give back to the community that has accepted us so well.
Beautiful. Thanks,
So
Ben.
nice. Thank you.
I wondered if, Adam, do you want to say anything about the Mitzvah Project? Because that is always a question too that people have, is like, how are we going to do this now? And
Well, yeah, no, the Mitzvah Project was interesting because we had to find one that actually we could volunteer at, because of coronavirus, it's much harder to find volunteering options. So this place was perfect because we could do it
Well,
from
tell them what
home.
we did.
So we volunteered at the Blanchett House. So we made sack lunches every week at our house, socially distanced from other people. And so it was just really nice.
beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks. Such a great example of how, you adapt and you make it work exactly as you said. Thanks.
Thanks to the Loria family.
Who would like to go now? And safe travels. Stay with us if you can, because we're going to also open this for questions for the 5th and 6th grade families. But well, maybe we'll open it. No,
let's go through and
yes.
then we'll see.
I know. We're figuring it out.
Figuring it out.
Next family, who would like to go next?
We can talk. Hello. I'm Robin. This is Molly. Molly's bat mitzvah was in December, and I guess my biggest advice is to just go with the flow. So we were actually initially going to do it in November, and for a multitude of reasons changed it a month, and then changed from having it in the sanctuary with just immediate family to in the sanctuary with our immediate household, and then a week before in our living or our dining room. It was at our dining room table. And it was weird to go with the flow, but it actually worked out. And although I had to be honest, at first I was kind of sad not to have it in the sanctuary because I had my bat mitzvah there. It was amazing. There's something different about doing it at your home where you could you're so close to watching your child. You can't do that in the sanctuary. And it was a very cool experience having it at home. Definitely different, but I don't think I would have changed it. So that was good. As for the planning, it's actually easier in a pandemic because you can get away with, you don't have to send invitations, you can do evites. There's some things that the pandemic actually makes it quite easy and doable and just acceptable. We started doing without a tutor and following Cantor Kahana's kind of guidelines, but it became pretty apparent that I couldn't help. And so we actually did the tutor route. And if you have to do it, it actually made it amazing and super easy. And it was fun to kind of watch Molly as a parent kind of get ready for it. And then at the end, just do that whole service. So there was nothing wrong with getting the tutor. It was a little bit more expensive, but it made it super easy and took a lot of pressure off. So I would not be afraid to get a tutor if needed. The other thing someone asked about a party, we actually did end up doing a party, which was funny because before the bat mitzvah, we didn't actually want a big bat mitzvah party, but we ended up doing the party once it went this way. And the nice thing about the pandemic is we hired someone from the East Coast because it doesn't really matter. And we did it on Zoom, and they had an illusionist, and they did an engaging trivia games. And they did, it was a bunch of just different games. And I have to say, everyone had a blast, and it truly felt like a party. It was weird. I didn't think it would work out, but everyone I've talked to that came, it was truly a celebration and like a true bat mitzvah party. So if you want to do a party, you totally can. It's very doable. And the other advice I would say is the pandemic is still going on, there is a Facebook page that actually Barbara told me about. It's Ali, you'll know the name. I can't remember the name, but Ali will come up with it when she talks. There's a Facebook group of I think it's people around the world that give you ideas of how to plan a bar and bat mitzvah in a pandemic. And there's amazing ideas. And so it was pretty easy. So that would be my other advice.
Cool. Molly, you want to add anything? And then I'll answer the question about tutors and stuff. I saw a couple questions.
Yeah, I got a tutor, and that was really helpful because I didn't really know how to pronounce half the things, even after listening to the recordings. So the tutor really helped. And then I kind of followed the dates, but I kind of lost the first, I never had the dates for the second sheet because I switched my bat mitzvah. So I didn't actually follow the dates. I kind of just worked with the tutor and got where I needed to be by the end. So.
What about your mitzvah project?
Oh yeah, and for my mitzvah project, I had surgery at Shriners a couple of times. So we decided to do something with them. So what we did is we asked everybody that we invited to give us some jokes. And we collected a joke book. And we're gonna pass it out to the kids at Shriners Hospital.
So beautiful.
Really creative.
So it's also personal, right? You take your own experience and I think for the Lurias too, that was part of what their family was doing was, helping make sandwiches. And so they just continue. I think it's beautiful to make it, to personalize it. And
can I just ask a question? Can you guys just say something about having the Torah scroll in your home?
It was cool. I mean, it was weird. I have to admit, I never thought I would have a Torah scroll at my dining room table. It was nice because we could practice with it. I will have to say, when we drove it back to your house, I've never been so nervous in my entire life having a Torah scroll in my possession. But it was a pretty cool experience. I don't actually can't really explain what it was like, but you'd wake up and you're like, oh, there's a Torah in my house. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's very sweet.
There
Someone,
was a
there was a
question about the party, I think.
yeah, about whether like questions in the chat, but it's about whether like who was participating in the party.
So we did the party over Zoom, and we got this name from that the Facebook website with some guy on the East Coast that does these Zoom parties. And he ran the whole thing. We did absolutely nothing. You could invite anyone you wanted. I think we had like 100 people. And it was incredibly engaging. They did a-
That's because everybody was on Zoom, or some people weren't.
Yeah, everyone was on Zoom. So, but yeah, it was fun actually. And again, if you get on this website, there's a variety of things, of different suggestions that you can steal from other people. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And there, some of them are expensive and some of them are really cheap. It kind of suits whatever you want.
And then you can get in your sweats right afterwards.
Yeah, it was great. Well, the other advice I would say really quick is if there are traditions that you want, there's still ways to do them. So again, you know, I was born and raised here, and there was some traditions like if you've had bar and bat mitzvahs at the synagogue, like the cookie tradition, like traditionally everyone brings cookies the day before on Friday, and that's the dessert that you have. And for me, there was like, those were just things that I couldn't wrap my head around not doing. So my sister instead got like 15 different families that we're close with to each make cookies. And then she brought like some of everyone's cookies to us and then gave some cookies to everyone else. It was like a cookie exchange. So it, you know, there's ways around to keep the traditions going. You just have to be creative and be willing to think outside of the box. And it kind of made it more fun and personal.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I want to quickly answer the tutor question because that's an easy one in terms of how do you get a tutor. So please, if you, and exactly as Molly and Robin said, it's great if you want to have a tutor. Like everybody needs different kinds of support. We do regular check-ins, the Cantors do, and it's really helpful sometimes to also have, you know, a tutor there by your side once a week. So what you do is just, we have that conversation. Just, you know, either I will recommend it, and I have a whole recommended tutor list that I regularly check in with, that I've worked with, who know our systems and our trope and everything. So please don't go out somewhere else like tutor.com or something. Yeah. Just come to me, and we have these wonderful tutors within our community that you can work with, and you can choose, and I can talk with you about, you know, who suits whom, etc. Also, if the cost is an issue, you should talk with me about that privately, because we have discretionary money to help you with that as well. So don't let that get in the way either.
And we got a question about the mitzvah projects. Really glad to get that question. We'll talk to you about this in our early meetings. You can start a mitzvah project anytime. We don't have required hours like you have with service projects at school. We really want this to be something that's meaningful to your family and to the bar bat mitzvah themselves, so it reflects their values and what they're interested in seeing, you know, as you look around the world and see what things need to be fixed and what you really relate to. That's something that, like the two examples we just heard, were really great and very personal. So you can start that early, and hopefully what we want is that you will find something that doesn't end, that it's something that you can continue to do long after the bar and bat mitzvah. And we have people who've had long-standing relationships with various organizations. Yeah. And we've got examples from the past, but, you know, kind of use your own creativity and your own interests.
I'm going to see if the Shipley family is still there, because I think they had to leave early. So I just want to make sure they get a chance to, are you there?
Oh yeah, we're here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, we have plenty of time.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for these questions. They were really helpful. We looked at them, and I would like to say a little bit more about having, oh, I'm Megan, by the way, this is Alex. And actually we had a B'nai mitzvah because Alex's older sister did into her bat mitzvah when she was 13 and wanted to to do it. And it just made sense by the time she decided to do it to sort of have their paths converge. This is before we knew about the pandemic, obviously. So I think it was probably a couple years before they had about 2 years of tutoring and sort of an idea that we had the date of when they were going to have their combined B'nai Mitzvah. And the great thing, which made it super special, was that the rabbi and cantor found a date that has 2 Torah portions for it. So both Fiona and Alex had their own Torah portion, and that was separate, and they got to, feel like they were having sort of well, I don't want to speak for you, but like you guys did it together, but it was also your personal individual experience, right? Is that what you would say? Yeah. Fiona's actually on her way to the beach with a friend, so she couldn't be here this morning. But do you want to say anything about what that was like to do that with Fiona? Because it's not like you guys do a whole lot together. She's almost 16 and Alex is 13.
Yeah, it was I'm not sure how to, it was really, I feel like it was really nice because it was something we finally did together, and we don't do much together. But
pretty different.
Yeah, I don't really know what to say, but
it's okay. Yeah, so that was special for all of us. I would say having the Torah scroll in our house was just amazing. I mean, it felt, this is going to be corny, but it felt sort of magical to have that Torah scroll in our house. I feel like we were all kind of we all wanted to honor that. And I felt like it affected the way we treated each other, the behavior. There was a little bit of anxiety, like, oh my gosh, what if there's a fire? But really it was more sort of, it just felt like a blessing. It felt like a blessing to have this beautiful scroll in the house. One thing, because we didn't want to handle it obviously very much, one thing that really helped with the kids' preparation is that we took, and I think that Cantor told us to do this, we took photographs of the portion on the actual scroll, blew them up and printed them out so that they could study the actual scroll, a copy of it, without having to unroll it and, handle it, because we wanted to minimize that, obviously. What else? I feel like the other sort of silver linings was that I'll agree with what the Stone family said, that some things were just much easier because we had planned. Our B'nai Mitzvah was on July 18th. And, over the summer, it sounded like maybe things were getting better in Portland. So we were kind of like open to the idea of switching it, but it became clear, I think in June, that was probably not going to happen. And again, we just went with the flow. And it turned out that I think a lot of our family who, the family who are Jewish and have been to lots of bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs were pleasantly surprised at how beautiful it was and how traditional in some ways and how it worked on Zoom. And then members of my family who aren't Jewish were less intimidated, I think, because they really wanted to be there, but they were nervous, and I think the fact that they could be in their home, but be part of it. I got so many comments from them about what a special experience and it was for them. And at this point, many people hadn't really had a collective Zoom experience that was meaningful. And people were just blown away. It brought people from all over the country together. So we obviously canceled all of our kind of reservations for the party and the hotels and the catering, but it was okay because it was a really super special day. And I feel like my husband and I, Tom, we talked about the way we felt just ourselves after the ceremony, and it was similar. I mean, the only thing that was similar was the way we felt after our wedding. I mean, it had that sort of awe attached to it. And I wouldn't have expected that from a Zoom, ceremony, but it really was that palpably powerful. And I think just again, to address the questions, like I think the kids really did, like, especially Fiona, who's not here, but like she didn't know if she was going to be able to get through the Hebrew. She has some attention and focus issues, and adding that to the remote learning at school was a challenge. But I feel like the cantor and rabbi were extremely flexible with us, and they reassured her and encouraged her that she could do it. And it really was so empowering for her to do it. And I think she has more self-confidence and more self-esteem and more self-love because of the experience. Not to mention that her 93-year-old grandfather got to do the prayers and be there. And one thing Fiona was especially worried about was that, he was gonna not be around when she finally had her bat mitzvah, and instead he was very much part of it in a safe way.
Thank you. Wow.
you.
It's so
Yeah, very
moving to
powerful.
hear these reflections. And before we ask, thank you, Garfinkel's, for being patient. Just one quick thing that I was thinking about as a few of you were talking is that we've learned so much from this pandemic experience. And so while some of you that are coming up in a year or two, and you're thinking, well, by then we'll be fine, we won't have to worry. And that's, God willing, yeah, we'll be back together. And we're going to keep some of the best practices from what we've learned from this. We're going to make sure that we still Zoom so that so the family that can't physically be here for whatever reason, that we can still involve them. So, and also I think just learning about how to be flexible, and that it's still a holy, beautiful experience, like Megan said, that is so important for us to just keep in our minds of what is it really about. And yes, we should celebrate, and we can celebrate in different ways. One of the very first ones that we did that was all Zoom back in April, they had a whole parade of cars with big Mazel Tov signs and balloons and things like that surprised the bar mitzvah boy. And he was crying with joy. It was so amazing. So there are lots of ways to celebrate, Okay.
And one thing
Yeah.
that we sort of hinted at, but to be clear, during this time when it's been, whether you're in the sanctuary or you're at home, people who have honors in the service, like who have an aliyah, will do that by Zoom.
Yeah.
They'll be called up even if they're not physically present, and just unmute themselves, say the blessing. And we really consider that to be part of the community, the congregation, even if they're not physically present.
Thank you for being so patient, Garfinkel's. You want to unmute?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Allie. This is Maddie.
Hi, Maddie.
And Maddie's bat mitzvah was in October. And so just to echo a lot of what some of the other families have said, I think Robin mentioned there were two really helpful, at least I found helpful, Facebook groups. One was called, oh shoot, I'll look them up. I should have done this before. I'll look them up and put them in the chat. But one is DIY bar and bat mitzvah. It was kind of cheesy, but people have great suggestions. And then the newer one that came out of it is called Virtual Mitzvah Planning. Beta just posted it. And like Robin said, it's just really helpful. People, you can go in and search, put a word in the search and look, and people have given suggestions on everything from these, parades to vendors that are offering different services, to sending out care packages to your family far and wide. And I mean, I think, you can go crazy making it as big as a thing, or you can keep it as simple as you want. I think one of the interesting switches I found was that not having to plan a giant party was such a blessing, because it puts the focus on what's really important, right? I mean, you're trying to, I think it shifted at least my focus on planning a big weekend of events to really the focus is like the service and the ceremony and making it special for the bar and bat mitzvah and making it like putting that focus back on the what is important for them and making the focus be on them. And I found that to be a really interesting, I don't want to say switch because that's always the focus, but it really took a different turn. We decided to go to the challenge question. I think for me, the most challenging piece was October. Things were still, they felt bad, but we hadn't yet had a crazy surge yet, but the numbers were slowly on the rise. So there was a lot of unknown. And that in terms of planning is a challenge to not know, well, can we be in the synagogue? How many people can be in the synagogue? Will that number shift? Should we be in the backyard? Can we be in the backyard? It's October, so what's the weather? So there were, I think for me personally, the unknowns of all of that was challenging. But we're lucky to be able to do it in our backyard. I put up a big tent and Maddie had a Havdalah bat mitzvah. And so it felt special, I think, because I grew up going to camp. And so being able, it felt very, I was aiming for sort of a campy vibe and being able to do that. And we were lucky, full disclosure, Cantor Green is part of our family. And so we were able to have our family be present with us because we were outside and we gave everybody masks and made everybody try to stay apart. So we were able to do it that way, which I think felt special. I don't know. Do you want to comment?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like like Megan said, like my 95-year-old great grandma was able to be a part of the service and there, even though she doesn't love wearing a mask and all of that. But it was also really special just because like I got to have sometime at the end, like a couple of my closest friends came. And so like family was there also, but then after everybody left and, you know, my brothers went inside and watched a movie or whatever. And I just got to have some time with my friends to like in the backyard, just hanging out. So it was
nice.
Special.
We tried to make it special. And I would say that the roadmap is really helpful. And as the Luria family mentioned it, Maddie did a really great job as far as following the roadmap. I think maybe you asked for 1 or 2 extra check-ins with the Cantor, but I think,
yeah, you
know, being early in the fall, we didn't have the whole year to kind of be practicing. So you really made it a priority over summer.
Kind of like Molly, I didn't follow the dates like Cantor set. I just kind of did it like I kind of learned a new one like once or twice a week and then just practiced the rest. And like, I mean, it was hard, especially if I had like soccer or, you know, camp or whatever, but I still kind of like put in like 10 minutes every afternoon or every other afternoon, and it really helped.
You want to say anything about your bat mitzvah project?
Oh yeah, so I kind of decided mine like the beginning of the summer. And so it was kind of like the election was coming up. So I did something with Stacey Abrams' nonprofit Fair Fight. And so it kind of, we emailed quite a few of like family, friends, and my family, just like links that they could donate and to register. And I reminded everybody to register to vote and, you know, track their vote and make sure like they voted. And I also made a video and my mom posted it on our Instagram and I posted it on my TikTok, reminding like my friends' parents to vote.
So there's a lot of a wide breadth of what you can do out there.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our families for your insights. And I mean, it was better even than the questions that we sent, you know, what you're able to share with us, because it's your experiences from your heart. I wanted to give Vita a quick chance to, is there anything you want to share with the families? I know we have all kinds of materials that we sent with them, and then we have a few minutes, we can open it up if there's some questions. Anything, Vita?
I think
I know it's been challenging for some people throughout this year just to envision what the day is going to look like, and that it's not going to look like theirs when they had it, the parents. But I would just say go with the flow. With this pandemic, it's been up and down. There's been surges. But for the most part, I think don't be afraid to ask for help. If you need tutors, it's a lot of students use tutors. Reach out to us, and we can accommodate changes. So if things need to be, if we're not going to do all 4 Aliyah, that's okay. If we need to do a few DVAR meetings, that's okay. I think just knowing that we will do whatever your family needs and make it the service that your child needs. It's important to know that we're here to support you in any way you need.
Thanks, Vita. Yeah, I think also what pandemic has taught us is, the stresses on everybody and on our kids are huge, and we get it, and we know that. So Cantor Green and I are basically seeing everybody once a month now, no matter what, and if you want an extra time, or if you feel like that would be helpful, great. Like Vita said, just let us know. So we are really here to be your supporters. I want to make sure. Oh,
I just want to say one other thing. I mean, I know 5th and 6th graders, we really are anticipating that, please God, will be without past pandemic during that time. But we know the world is uncertain, and that's just, we've learned a lot about that during this period of time. One really strong recommendation, though, we've had a number of people who wanted to defer, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, and thinking, well, in a month or two, everything's going to be fine. And this is, a good reminder that it's really hard to anticipate things, especially about the future. And so, the best way to proceed is to power through and really know that we don't know exactly how things are going to be, but continuing, putting things off actually tends to make things a little bit harder. So, we really encourage you to stay with it. And, we know that even in the before times, there's a lot of stresses on these young people. They're busy schedules, got a lot of stuff going on. And as we heard from some of our kids, one of the things, the profound lessons they learn is time management. How do we actually do things? How do you prioritize? How do you make sure things get done? Those are life skills and really important. And I think as parents, one of the best things we can do is help our young people figure out how to manage their time, learn how to do that, but not try to take that away, but really make it happen.
Thank you. I know the other clergy's on, if anybody wanted to add anything. Otherwise, I really do want to also open it up for questions. I think Ava was raising her hand.
Oh, I wasn't sure if we were chatting or speaking questions, so thanks. Just out of curiosity, I feel like when I think back to Bat Mitzvah and you have the rabbi and the cantor standing next to you, there's a comfort that if your child sort of loses their way midstream, someone's going to kind of whisper to them and get them back on track. And I've read some articles suggesting that some kids are even wearing like little earphones, and like one of the cantors is like whispering in their ear if they lose their way. I don't get the impression that you're doing that, but is there any reassurance to kids, or do you just sort of gracefully in that moment kind of reset them if they've lost their way? But any sort of thoughts on that issue?
Great question.
Wow. Yeah, we're not doing that, or we haven't.
That might be like a New York thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
it sounds like a New York thing.
But
it's a clever idea. Actually, I'd never thought of it.
I'm actually wearing one right now. Cantor is speaking.
That's only during the debates, man. I keep telling you.
I mean, I think one of the beauties also of this time is that we all get that stuff happens during a Zoom call and things can go awry. So there's a certain kind of grace and informality, I think, that actually is reassuring. So, like in the moment, I mean, we've had this happen. It happened today, right? Like we were muted. I didn't realize it. And so we have to talk to each other. So that's how we've been handling it. And honestly, our kids always do such a beautiful job. It's like very rarely that we're even having to do it. But if we do, we do. And we practice that during the sessions too. I actually like the idea that this is not about perfection. You know, I really want to reinforce that for our kids. It is not about that.
It's not a performance.
It's not a performance. We make mistakes, you know, and that's fine. And for people to actually see that and be with you in that moment, it's like, you know, when you're doing a play and you go up on your lines and you can't remember, like the audience is with you, like they, you know, not that it's a performance. I know maybe that's a bad metaphor, but the idea is we're this supportive community. So, you know, if you forget something and we're here, that's the role of the gabbai. There's a person on the bima even during the service when we're able to be together, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, we definitely. I always tell kids that there will be a mistake made in the service, and most likely I'm going to be the one who makes that mistake, and because that's the way it is. But you know what? Actually, you know, I haven't thought about that until you mentioned it, and I'm glad you brought it up, because in the before times we did a lot of hovering. Right. We were, you know, there's clergy on one side, clergy on the other side. We're following along and we're ready to whisper in their ears. And I'm really realizing maybe we didn't need to do that. Maybe we don't, you know, maybe these kids are actually better prepared than we think.
Well, there is something really empowering, like a family has a Torah scroll in their home, or on the bima, where because of, you know, safety protocols, we're distant. So they're having to get the Torah out of the ark. I mean, it's so much more responsibility actually that we gave families, and maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, Molly's got some.
Sorry.
I was going to say, one of the things that I thought was cool, I actually felt like Molly got to do more because we were on Zoom, because when it would be like typically in the sanctuary, when the whole congregation does a part, when it's at your house, it's just the B'nai Mitzvah, you know, person doing it. And so I actually felt like she got to have a lot more parts and lead the service significantly more than she would have had it been in the sanctuary, which was pretty cool.
And you guys too. I mean, you're really, you know, doing a lot of the choreography with the Torah scroll. And I think, you know, I think Robin was more nervous than Molly during that time. And there's something that's kind of.
I think Steve was most nervous.
Yeah, I think. But I think there's something that's actually very, very nice about that. You know, all of this unplanned. That's just been that's been the reality.
I can't actually see the chat. If there are other questions, just unmute. Any other family?
Megan.
Oh, Megan, did you want to say? Go ahead.
Well, we were just remembering that, you know, it kind of started, I don't know if maybe this is in the stuff you guys sent people, but the kids got to do the blessing over the wine for the Friday night service. So the whole experience was really starting Friday night for us. And I mean, we would have been at Zoom services anyway, but their active participation began. And that was nice because I think it was shorter and less pressure. So they got that. And it was a little kind of rehearsal for the Zoom stuff, which, you know, was really helpful because then they knew, okay, they did that. We'll get through tomorrow morning. So
yeah,
whatever that's worth.
We normally do that, but having family there in person. And oftentimes it's interesting because on those Friday nights, we like to have the family there for just that reason that you said. I think it really helps the kids sort of be a little bit more prepared. But oftentimes there's all this pressure because a family came in from out of town and we have to go to dinner with them. And, you know, there's all of that planning. And, you know, I think, again, silver lining, there was just none of those pressures. We just, you know, were able to join us for the Friday night service and make it be lovely. Yeah, thank you for the reminder about that. That's great.
Any other questions out there? Can you
next
give
steps?
Next steps.
When do we start meeting? Just sort of them.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I'm like
small print.
All right. Next steps. So you should be working on your prayers, right? Just get into that habit. Like put in your 15 minutes 4 or 5 days a week. Get used to that. like that rhythm of carving out that time, like we were saying, and everybody's been saying, is really important. That just muscle memory of going over prayers.
And the Sunday morning service is a real
And
help for that.
Right, the midrashah, the religious school, because it's a little amount of time. I know we're all zoomed out. I was saying to Rabbi, there's a Yiddish word now. It's oisgezoomt. We're like so zoomed out. We're oisgezoomt. But anyway, but you can do like a half hour on a Sunday or 45 minutes, to go over your prayers. And then we get in touch with you about a year prior to Bar and Bat Mitzvah to get you in to a Zoom meeting. For now, we used to do them in person, and that's when we'll give you all your materials, your Torah portion, if you have a morning service, the Haftarah, we have sheets that are color coded with the different melodic markings on them, and we have translations and the whole guidelines for how to study, and it's like we give you a whole plan at that meeting. And then we do follow-ups, like about a month after that first meeting, you'll do a check-in with me or with Cantor Green, and then we follow from there. There's a whole series of check-ins from there. So, it's interesting. We used to start this like 6 to 8 months prior, and then it kind of went 8 to 10. And now we're kind of back to like 10 to 12 months prior, because it's harder now. It really, we get it. And we want to give you guys as much time as possible to learn it all. So if your bar or bat mitzvah is less than a year away and you haven't set up a time to meet with us yet, get in touch with Beta and we'll make sure we get you in there. With that, I hope that answered the question.
Any last questions before we go? Or anything that our clergy partner want to say? Thank you, Shipleys. Great to have you with us.
Thank you, Garfinkel's. Thank you, Loria's. Yeah, thank you. So nice to have everybody. Yeah, did anybody else want to say anything?
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing is that, I guess two. One is that if you're planning to do a Zoom in your house or in your backyard, there are some things that make the setup easier as far as like the lighting and your internet access and different wires, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And a lot of people have, hey, Leo, hold on a second. Welcome to Saturday morning.
For his bar mitzvah.
Really, the most important thing I was going to say is that I don't know if you've participated in any other Zoom bar and bat mitzvahs for the families who are getting ready, but it's such a point of light for the community in a time where things are a little bit crazy and we're all zoomed out and the kids are zoomed out. It is really like just a joy to see kids work so hard and their families come together in a really unique way. It's pretty special. And so the expectations do have to shift, but I think that's more for the parents than the kids. And you can make anything happen. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you again. And I didn't mention the McCoy family. I want to thank you too, if you're still on the call. Just thank you to all of our panel families, and thank you to all of you participants, all the families who joined us for services and for this conversation. Let's keep it going.
Beta and Chelsea and Tracy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Beta and Chelsea and Tracy. Can't do anything without you guys. If you have questions following this, like they didn't come to you right now, please just send us an email and let's get on board to help you. We want to de-stress and be as supportive as possible. Okay. So anything else from our clergy partners or Ben or?
Thank you all. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom. Good to see everybody.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
It's like frenetic.
I know. See how many?
Look at they left.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Well done, everybody.
Okay. Thank you. It was great.
Thanks a
Panelists
lot.
were great. Thank you.
They were real.
They're good.
Okay.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.